Hey, crypto family. So today I'm going to go over the price action that we've had today, as well as what we can expect for the future. So today, unfortunately, most of the cryptocurrencies are down, with only a few being up. And again, it's not too good to see after that rally that we did have yesterday. But again, we still are up quite a bit from last week at $5,676. So Bitcoin's down 1.8%, and then most of the altcoins are down a little bit more than that. But looking at the market analysis, we can see Bitcoin right now. So I mentioned in my last video, I mentioned that 5,800 resistance. One, if we pass this 5,500, looking to test 5,800. And that's exactly what happened. We got up to 5,800, specifically 5,840, and that's exactly when we started on the decline again. We had that sharp reversal. So keep in mind, this 5,800 level is the level that we need to look out for strong resistance. So right here, and then 6,000 after that. And the reason these two levels are so important is because for the longest time, that 6,000 level was support. I believe Bitcoin at least bounced off it at least 3 times. And then 5,800 was another time when it bounced off of that. So these two levels are very strong resistance right now. So again, we may test this resistance a couple more times before we can break through it. But right now, looking at the market, you can see it's hovering right around this $5,500 level. But if you zoom in on the 4 hour, you can see it's just below it. So again, we need to break back above this 5,500 level and hold above it. And then that can be seen as more bullish action and continued rise to try again to break this $5,800 level. But one of the good things is this RSI has reset. So it's not really too overbought anymore. Again, that leaves room for the upside. The 50-day moving average is still above the 128-day, and that's still above the 200-day. So again, looking right now to just retest this 55 support and then test this 5,800 resistance. So we're going to see what happens with that. If we do end up falling more, then looking at the daily chart, we can see again this $5,000 support is major support, possibly around 5,200. But again, I'm looking at this 5,000 if we do continue to fall after today. So look for that when you are trading. But again, we may just see some sideways action until then. Now, the first article we're going to talk about today is one by Coin News. And it talks about a mysterious crypto whale unveils meteoric Bitcoin price target. So anytime I talk about these price targets, again, this is complete speculation. Do not take this as investment advice at all. It's just basically giving a different point of view that people have and just giving some targets and basically some long-term predictions that could happen in the future. So this investor, he has over $7,000 worth of Bitcoin, or 7,000 Bitcoin, which is over $35 million worth. And basically, he invested Bitcoin early on, and it links his wallet right here. So you can see this is wallet, and it has nearly 7,000 Bitcoin. Now, what this investor says is he says we may have some temporary bearish movements, which I can see as well for the next couple of months, and then possibly starting another rise after that. And he does mention a $50,000 price target, but he does give that within the next 3 to 5 years. So I believe this is very, very realistic. So again, a lot of people are saying, Bitcoin is going to reach 50,000 within the next 2 years, but 3 to 5 years, I believe that's the most realistic target. Again, I believe by the end of this year, we'll possibly be around 10,000. So, nothing too crazy. I do think it's going to be more of a steady rise this year versus 2017, where it just went from 10 to 20,000 in less than a couple weeks. But again, it's good to see, at least some people have some realistic targets, which I think that's where we're moving towards now versus just, hey, we're going to double in price, by the end of the year. I mean, it's actually more realistic and it's slow and steady growth. So I believe a lot of people who, have known Bitcoin's, blockchain technology and have just understood it, understand how it grows now. And it's just one more thing to keep in mind and just, different points of views to have when you are analyzing Bitcoin. So that was a good article just to, open up, the perspective of where Bitcoin can be in the next couple of years. Now, this next article, it talks about Warren Buffett. And as you know, Warren Buffett has been a big, basically complainer about Bitcoin. So he does not like Bitcoin at all. And he thinks that Bitcoin, he said, it's not backed by anything. There's no use case for it. And basically, he just doesn't like it. And I'll tell you why he doesn't like it is because it disrupts the banking sector. It disrupts the financial sector. Basically, everything that his company is built upon. and Bitcoin is threatening that and disrupting that. So he doesn't like that. He sees that as Bitcoin is threatening his profits. So again, he's going to attack it as much as he can. So there is basically a conference, and it's called the Woodstock of Capitalism, and basically it's a big meeting with a lot of financial people, and one of them asked Warren Buffett what he thought about Bitcoin, and he says, quote, "It's a gambling device. There's been a lot of frauds connected with it. There's been disappearances, so there's a lot of lost in it. Bitcoin hasn't produced anything." And then, as you remember, he also called Bitcoin rat poison squared last year. I mean, he's constantly dissed Bitcoin, and despite that, Bitcoin's still, this year it's continued to outperform his stock, Berkshire Hathaway, which that stock is still underperforming all of the other stocks. You can see Berkshire Hathaway has only had 8% gains versus double-digit gains of the S&P 500. So he's probably a little sour about that. And, just seeing Bitcoin this year, beat that and the stock market in general from its 3,700 price in January to where it is now. I mean, that's, more than a 50% rise in price. So again, a lot of people right now in the financial sector are seeing Bitcoin as a threat, and they don't like that. So they're going to do whatever they can to try to destroy it. And one of the biggest things here I like in this article, it says, Bitcoin is a store of value that rivals gold. It's a peer-to-peer digital currency that gives migrants a way to send money to their families faster and cheaper than any money transfer device without the blockchain can do. And it's decentralized, so it's not subject to the whims of any central bank or government that turns on the printing press and causes inflation. So again, you have all these advantages that Bitcoin gives, and people literally look at one case of it's not backed by anything. Well, it doesn't have to be like a company. It's completely different from stocks. So you can't compare it one-to-one like that. You have to look at its advantages more of as a payment and decentralized system that's not controlled by any central bank or government. So again, that's inherently where the value is in Bitcoin. And a lot of these big financial sectors and these CEOs can't understand that because they're only tied to one way of thinking. So again, cryptocurrency is still very, very new. It's in the very early stages, so a lot of people do not understand it, and they want to tear it down because they see it as a threat. So again, if you see Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, anyone in the high end of the financial sector talking bad about Bitcoin, then just keep in mind all the use cases that Bitcoin has and how many people it's helping, and don't look at it as a one-to-one to stocks because it's not the same as stocks. Now, last but not least is our article by AMB Crypto, and it says, BitGo Chief Security Officer says cryptocurrency regulation should absolutely be at a state level. Now, I know what you're saying, regulation, no one likes regulation in cryptos, but the CFO of BitGo, the CSO, Chief Security Officer, is saying that in order to have regulations by the state, one, that's good because it creates a status quo by which cryptocurrency exchanges abide by, but two, it gives investors that security that their funds will be safe and that it basically won't be open to hacking or, corruption that goes on with a lot of exchanges such as Cryptopia, Quadriga CX, Bitfinex, and, a couple others. So again, it's basically trying to make, each individual state have their own laws versus it being controlled fully by government, which, I think is definitely a good way to go. And it talks about here, it says, Paglar contends that if the cryptocurrency world wants to compete on the same level as the traditional finance sector, regulation needs to be commensurate as well. He added that federal regulators should look at the virtual currency industry like they do in the banking sector. The quote, "We think that regulation is good, and it makes it so the players who are trying to do this right and actually want to mirror the banking world just to make it quicker and faster and more disruptive do succeed, and we don't have consumers with issues." So again, they're not saying they want it controlled by the government, controlled by the banks. They're saying that they want it to be on par with where their banks are at, so they can disrupt that system and actually compete with it on a more one-to-one level. And just having those regulations in place will get that mass adoption for people to come over to cryptocurrencies and get away from those banks and the government. So again, this is something that I like and something that I do think needs to happen. There's kind of that, thin line where, being controlled too much, centralized versus being decentralized. And I think regulation at the state level would be good because, again, it wouldn't be controlled by, one certain entity like the government. So something to keep in mind when you are thinking about regulations. Some exchanges like Binance don't need state regulation because, they've already joined forces with Identity Mine to build their KYC and risk management protocol. But again, those other exchanges, that don't really have regulations in place are the ones that really need, are the ones that BitGo is focusing on. So something that, I think everyone should keep in mind as we move forward with cryptos and as we move towards mass adoption. So with that, if y'all enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment if you have any questions, and please subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, thanks for watching.